We did small steps.
We professionalized our positions.
And we professionalized our positions early on. That was one way we really invested in our employees before we were able to provide, full health insurance and salary to everyone. There were small steps we took there. But, I think the point that we always try to make is you can't say, oh, we can't do that yet. We don't have enough money. You have to make sacrifices, and you have to make small steps and do it along the way every day, and keep thinking about how you can minimize your impact.
Quite often we get approached by businesses about that very subject, and those are the kind of phrases that we hear from them. And it's like, well, you should have thought of that when you started your business. I mean, we've built these things into what we are, who we are from day one. And it's the kind of thing, it's a lot more difficult to go back after the fact and then try to do it. You can always find a reason to try to say we can't afford it, this, that, or the other thing. But like Jen said, the 20 years we've been doing this, the level of sacrifice on our part to make these things happen, a time and time again. People need to just be a bit more aware of that and be willing to sacrifice like that. And you're building something for the long term, not for the short term, like you're just going to sell it and dump it. You're actually creating something that's going to have a positive impact.
Residing at the foothills of Mount Mansfield is the four-season resort town of Stowe, Vermont. While there, residents and visitors can head to the Alchemist, a family-owned brewery that produces craft beers such as Heady Topper and Fokelbanger. This business is also known as a force for doing social and environmental good. So, hello and welcome to another episode of Ripple on the Road. I am Mike Shodroff. I am the founder and CEO of the Ripple Center, which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that believes we have some broken systems today in capitalism, particularly as it pertains to environmental stewardship and human equity and dignity. And our mission is to mold, create, and promote impact and environmental businesses and organizational leaders that are doing the work to disrupt and change these systems. Which brings me here today to Stowe, Vermont, where I am at the Alchemist Brewery with owners Jen and John Kimmich. And I appreciate your time and thank you so much for having me. Please tell me, how'd you get into beer brewing, and a little bit about yourselves and how the Alchemist came to be?
That's a big question. Me? You?
Yeah.
Okay. Jen and I first met back in the mid-90s when we were both working at the Vermont Pub and Brewery. It was love at first sight. We were married about 18 months after we met, and then we began our journey of being married and moving around the country, having fun, and working toward opening our own business together, which was the original Alchemist Pub and Brewery. We opened that in November of 2003, operated it for 9 years before it was destroyed in Tropical Storm Irene. The destruction of the pub was followed 2 days later by the first canning run of Heady Topper that we had ever done. So the timing, of course, was serendipitous to say the least. We operated that production brewery in 2000, we continue to, and in 2016 we opened up this facility here in Stowe, Vermont, and now we continue to operate 2 breweries and employ 50 people.
Wow. Now, I can't wait till the day we were talking about the way technology and video has changed, so you can actually smell video, because this is absolutely aromatic at its finest. And although I know Heady Topper is a beer, I've had friends travel from around the country. I believe there's a story someone once traveled from Africa to get some Heady Topper.
We have a lot of different stories like that, but sure, yes.
As much as I've traveled here for the beer, what really attracted me was in your mission statement, you talk about being a family-operated business that believes in the triple bottom line. Could you explain what that even means?
Yeah. Well, first, as far as being a family-owned business, an independent business, that's really, really important. And it gives us so much strength in being a triple bottom line company because we don't have a board we report to, we don't have investors, we haven't merged with a big brewery. And right now, especially, we're seeing it everywhere. All of our favorite breweries are being bought out, they're merging. When companies become public or they have lots of investors, it is about the bottom line, it is about profit. And John and I are so incredibly fortunate that we don't have people that we report to. So we're able to operate our business in a way that's really meaningful, and we're able to measure our success by not only our profits, but also the impact we have on the environment, the impact we have in our community, and also just our workplace environment, what we can contribute to all of our team members' lives. That's really the backbone of everything we do.
And with that said, what Jen mentioned, being fortunate to not have to answer to investors and board members, that was a very specific decision on our part from day one. When we started the pub, we never wanted anyone to have a say in what our business was going to become. And we've made many sacrifices over the years to stick to that. A lot of breweries would have, had they been experiencing our level of notoriety and success, would have taken outside money and blown up. And we resisted that at every step of the way because we know that eventually we're going to be right here in this position with the power of the Alchemist behind us to do what we want and to have the impact that we want on our local economy.
And let's talk about some of that impact and break it down. You have the environmental impact, and I know a few of the things that you talk about is wastewater, energy use, and your goal for zero waste. Can you maybe speak to those?
Well, to start off, those are really big items, the wastewater, the CO2, and I'll let John speak about that more. What we always really talk about is intention and just the will to do it. No matter how big or small your business is, no matter how much your profits are, you can do things that really matter. You don't need to invest in $1 million wastewater system. You don't need to install a solar array, but you do have to care. So when we think back to when we opened the pub in 2003, we were broke. We had no money. And we were on a shoestring budget. In fact, the day after we opened, I think we had, a couple $100 in the bank and 20 new employees. The next day we found out we were pregnant. No health insurance. It was dire. But we were able to take steps that were really impactful and meaningful, not just to us, but to our employees and our customers. We composted all of our food scraps. When possible, they were brought to pigs, to the pig farm. We had compostable products to go. We did all of these things. All the spent mash went to a local farm. We did small steps.
We professionalized our positions.
And we professionalized our positions early on. That was one way we really invested in our employees before we were able to provide, full health insurance and salary to everyone. There were small steps we took there. But, I think the point that we always try to make is you can't say, oh, we can't do that yet. We don't have enough money. You have to make sacrifices, and you have to make small steps and do it along the way every day and keep thinking about how you can minimize your impact.
Quite often we get approached by businesses about that very subject, and those are the kind of phrases that we hear from them. And it's like, well, you should have thought of that when you started your business. I mean, we've built these things into what we are, who we are from day one. And it's the kind of thing, it's a lot more difficult to go back after the fact and then try to do it. You can always find a reason to try to say we can't afford it, this, that, or the other thing. But like Jen said, the 20 years we've been doing this, the level of sacrifice on our part to make these things happen, time and time again. People need to just be a bit more aware of that and be willing to sacrifice like that. And you're building something for the long term, not for the short term, like you're just going to sell it and dump it. You're actually creating something that's going to have a positive impact.
And your employees too, they need to be invested, because a lot of the steps you take are work, whether it's breaking down all of your boxes and making sure they're clean so they're recycled properly, or another analogy, something we like to talk about, is our wastewater system. We've invested so much money in our wastewater system. We have a full-time wastewater manager, and oftentimes we have producers come in here and say, oh, you're so lucky you can do that. We wish we could do that. We have to put all of our tank wash right down the drain. And we'll say, well, you don't have to do that. Before we had that, and we still do to this day, side stream as much dirty water, as much tank wash, as much as we can, and it's composted. Everyone can do that, and everyone should do that. And you'd be amazed how many people just put everything down the drain because it's easier.
And there's a cost associated with that. And of course there is. And there should be. But that's part of being a business owner. You need to be thinking about things like that. You can't just brush it aside for the bottom line when you're starting. That needs to be built in, and you need to be prepared for it.
And I appreciate that because, right, it is a journey. And I believe, like you said, John, you know, you have to begin the foundation with the intention of how are you going to make that impact. You know, just like, you know, we have a fellowship program in which we're trying to help young adults who are going to look at the lens of all of their decisions through people and planet, you know, as they build their businesses. And it sounds like, you know, you were OGs at that. You really, you know, had it in your minds from the get-go.
Well, and like the wastewater room, what Jen said, and when people come in and say, oh, you're so lucky you have this, that was 12% of our budget, that room. Building this whole place, 12% of everything was that room. And I can remember the engineers being like, are you sure? You know, it's like, we're sure, we're doing it, you know. And now, because we know we're no dummies. We understand you do it at the start, and then you're not trying to retrofit things in. You need to anticipate what is going to be needed 20, 30, 40 years from now, and you try to be prepared for it.
And, you know, water's the main ingredient in our beer. We have to protect it.
So did you, when you did your initial planning as you were building the business, were these concepts that you have built in now, were they part of the plan or did they evolve?
I think the Alchemist is just a prime example of evolving over time. The pub was kind of version 1.0, Waterbury is 2.0, this is our 3.0 operation here. And along the way you learn, it's like going to school for this stuff. You know, now there are literally schools for people to learn about these kinds of things, but as we were doing it, there's no booklet that tells you what to do. You spend every waking hour thinking about stuff like this and finding solutions to it. And so you build better every time you build. I mean, we will never, but if we were to build a fourth facility, I mean, you take so much more that we have learned here. That place would be incredible. I mean, this place is incredible, but my God, there are still things that we would change and tweak. So that's all part of it, and it's fun. I mean, it really is a fascinating journey to build something like this.
It is. I think, you know, as far as from an entrepreneurial standpoint, the planning, the long term, this was never a part of our plan. I don't think you can plan for this. You can't expect whatever you're doing or making or providing to be very popular. You can't expect that. I really think from a planning standpoint, you have to start with something you're passionate about, and you need to sell it, and you need to be profitable. And that's kind of where we started. We knew we wanted a community pub. That was our goal. That was goal one. And then just paths open. And from there you kind of evolve and you grow. But I think, you know, spending a lot of time as a young business person, like, this is gonna happen, then this is gonna happen, then this is gonna happen, it's all kind of a waste of time. You can dream, but you gotta really start with that first goal.
Yeah.
And then just see where it takes you.
I mean, because it kind of leads you in directions, and you have to recognize those opportunities and have the guts to go for it too, you know.
Now, Jen, you just used the word community, and I know you probably have several different communities. You have your internal community, your employees, your staff. You have the community of consumers, as well as the community in which you're in. And I believe another aspect of your business you talk about is inclusivity. How do you do that with your different communities? I know, if I'm not mistaken, you have this great breakdown of educate, co-create, and celebrate as part of inclusivity. You know, could you talk a little bit more about that and the communities that you are part of?
Yeah, that's a really great and really broad question. But I think you're right. Whatever we're doing, we're really always focused on inclusivity. Here in the workplace, you know, I think we've always focused on creating a warm and welcoming workspace that really is safe for everyone. We do try to have a diverse staff, and we've been very successful in terms of you know, education levels and gender, getting lots of women in roles that aren't traditional, from driving trucks to being in the brewery. Age, we're very intergenerational. We have people from 18 up into, we've had someone recently in their 80s, now 70s. And we also have a lot of people that have intellectual challenges or on the spectrum. We have a couple of employees in wheelchairs. You know, in Vermont, it's hard to think about color because honestly, we're a very white state. You know, we do try to diversify there, but we try to think more in terms of age and socioeconomic and ability, because that really has created a very balanced workspace for us. You know, as far as our community goes, we do a lot of outreach with our schools, especially through our foundation, the Alchemist Foundation. We invest in different events and programs that provide exposure to youth in the area and adults, exposure to new things, new voices, new art, new music from different countries, from different regions, just to, you know, kind of provide that exposure, because that's kind of a subversive way to get people to open up and be more welcoming. And here in Stowe, you know, we live in a beautiful, beautiful town here in Vermont, but it is historically a very white town, and it kind of has a reputation for being a little old and stodgy. So we're really focused on helping make our town feel more welcoming to everyone. Because as a resort town, it's really important that everyone feels welcome here, especially when we need to attract people of the global majority. You know, we need people to feel comfortable coming here. So again, providing events, putting up our flags out front saying all are welcome, just various things like that. You know, we're always looking for ways to just make our workspace and our community more welcoming.
Talk about, because all of this goes into becoming a B Corp, a certified B Corp. What was that process like for you? Because I know it is a pretty rigorous process.
Yeah.
Jen is the architect of our status as a B Corp, so I will I will defer to her on this one. It is an incredible amount of work went into getting that and maintaining it. So
well,
please.
that's not so true, because the work to becoming a B Corp is really done in the brewery, and John does a huge amount of that work. But it was you know, initially when we became B Corp certified, I think we started the process in 2016 and became certified in 2017. It wasn't bad. It was a pretty easy process. You know, did the questionnaire, did an in-person interview. A few months later, we were certified. We just did a recertification, and it was just grueling. The amount of data that you had to provide and this and that. We aren't a very corporate business. You know, we don't spend a lot of time with records and meeting notes, because we always just have our feet on the ground running. We're just doing stuff. So when it comes time to kind of provide all that data, it's grueling. So much so that I think the next time we do the process, we'll hire someone to do it for us. But yeah, it's good to be certified. People recognize it, I think, more and more.
The young generation, without a doubt, recognizes that. I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And as rigorous as that recertification was, it's really good because we know everyone else is now going to be going through that same process. Because sometimes you do see a company that's B Corp and you kind of raise your eyebrow. You wonder how. So.
Now,
scooch back up. You push it back. No, come forward.
Forward.
Up even with me. There we go.
what as far as your customer base, particularly that shows up here, how many of them are talking about your impact as a company in addition to the great taste of your beer?
I think a fair number of them. I think our reputation for that continues to spread. I think, again, the younger generation, they're being taught some of these concepts in school, and we have students reach out to us all the time wanting to talk about it. And certainly after they take our tour, they have a new appreciation for it. I love when I read reviews online and people mention taking the tour, and they say things like, I had no idea all of the things they do for the environment. And so that's very pleasing because that is 90% of our tour. We talk very little about the beer. We talk about all of these things.
That's great. And let me ask, as a brewer, because you can't do everything, right? And as much as you dream that you could have an impact in every area, you have a certain recipe that has been very successful, particularly, let's say, with Heady Topper. Do you ever wonder, if I could get more sustainably grown ingredients or organic, does that ever, do you ever think about those things, or maybe in future beers,
I don't know. That's slightly, I don't know if I've ever been asked that before. My barley, if you're talking about sustainability as far as barley, you would be talking about buying something domestic, so there's less fuel spent to get it here and stuff like that. That's just not going to happen. There are certain limits to that because we work with a 5th generation maltster in England that is this incredibly cool family-run business that, in my opinion, makes some of the finest barley for brewing on earth. So I would never change the quality of my beer to do something like that. We take care of things on the backside.
But you're still supporting a small family farm. So.
Exactly, okay. And that's the way we look at it. To talk to somebody, 5th generation, since the 1700s, his family has been doing this. And the same name, and there's a lineage there. And for us, running a family business, it's hard to even conceive of the Alchemist being run by a Kimmich in 250 years. My brain can't even really go there. Our hops are much the same. We get our hops from the Pacific Northwest. I know specific farms that I choose them from. We have relationships with some of these growers, and in the world of brewing, it's unique like that, where you do have the connection to our suppliers that is you might not find in a lot of other industries.
For those that are coming into entrepreneurship, maybe even someone who wants to start a craft brew or be in this industry, as far as maybe not to
that's a steep hill to climb these days, but go on.
What would be some of your advice as far as how to build a business through the lens of triple bottom line?
I really think the most important thing is starting off with a company that you can make profitable, because you need money to do good things. And to do that, you need to work. You need to have some jobs in that industry or a similar business before you just go ahead and jump into business. Because we do meet a lot of young entrepreneurs right out of college who come to us and say they're ready to start a B Corp. And we say, no, you're not. You really need to work, and you really need to just save some money so you have some skin in the game, and that's your best bet to being successful.
Your 20s are your time to work and to learn and to pay attention. Every job you have, there are lessons to be learned. It could be the worst job in the world. You're learning what it's like to work in a terrible situation. You're learning what not to do. And your 30s, that's the time to start thinking about starting your own business. I agree 100%. We see so many young people that want to start their own business right away. It's like, just, you gotta be patient. We were in our 30s before we started The Alchemist.
We spent all of our 20s planning it, though.
Yeah,
working
sure.
out financial plans, recipes, working for people, seeing the right way to do things, the wrong way to do things, visiting
in and
places.
out of the industry that we're in now. I mean, there were times when I was a bellman in a hotel carrying bags. Jen was in the restaurant business. We were in various industries around and in the brewing industry. But when I wasn't brewing and when Jen wasn't actively doing something toward our goal, we were always planning and thinking. And when we would go out and we would go to other places, you're paying attention. What's the food like? What's the service like? What would this place be to run or to work in? And all the while having employers, and boy, they were great. Look what the way they handle this situation versus other bosses that are like, they're the worst. Don't ever do that, So there's so much to be learned by just working for other people.
Yeah, we did the homework. We even spent time with people from SCORE going through our business plan. We did the homework, we did the research, but that also gave us several years to work our tails off and save as much money as we could. And we didn't need investors. We were able to use our money we saved, get a small bank loan, max out our credit cards, and start our business. And here we are today, no investors. That to us at the end of the day is worth it.
That patience, absolutely. And it's patience, but it's also reality. We didn't have anyone throwing money at us. And nor would we have necessarily taken it had it happened. I mean, we met people along the way who were like, I want to invest in you guys. And it's like, nah.
Once we already had, kind
Sure.
of made it.
Right.
Well, even before. Even before. People saw our potential, but the timing wasn't right, and we knew we would never want to give away a piece of what we're going to do someday.
Really, as far as growing and evolving as a B Corp or any mission-driven business, you do what you can as you can do it, right? You start off with composting your food scraps, and then you start to offer health insurance, maybe a little bit, and then you go to paying for the full premium, then you expand your benefits. It's all very slow, and you just got to prioritize along the way, but it's not all going to happen at once. You got to make money. That's what you got to do first.
Yeah.
So before I ask your final question, is there anything else, that you'd like to share that maybe we didn't touch upon?
Gosh, I mean, we could delve into 1,000 subjects. I'll defer to your questions.
Okay.
It's stressful. It's not for everyone. You got to stay calm.
Yeah, what do you do as far as self-care as owners? Because this is something, I
Yeah.
talk about in our fellowship program all the time.
Get outside.
We get outside, we exercise, keep our heads straight, and lean on each other. I think we're very fortunate to have each other in running this business. It's not for everybody to run a business with their spouse, but I can't imagine doing it without her. And she would say the same. We have strengths in common. We each have unique strengths that we bring to the game. And at moments of high stress, you have somebody to talk you off the ledge and to just constantly throw ideas off. And, you're laying in bed at 10:30 at night and you're like, hey, and you have an idea about something, and it's fun. It's very fun.
It works well for us.
That's great.
It's not for everyone.
Oh, we've had colleagues in the industry come and visit and walk into our office, and they're like, you work in the same office. Like, oh yeah, of course.
Two different desks.
Two different desks.
Yeah, we don't share a desk. That wouldn't
No,
work.
No, that wouldn't work. Tandem bikes and connected desks are a no.
No.
So final question. We're always talking about pairing wine and food. Tell me, what's your favorite beer and food combination?
I do get asked that a lot. I'll give you the same answer. I'm not a big beer food pairing kind of guy. I like to get my drinking in, and then I like to do my eating. That I don't drink that much, but I'll have one or two. I love them first. Quite often, for me, the ingredients of the food can just interfere and do some wacky things to your palate, and the beer might not necessarily match. With that said, I mean, who doesn't love beer and chips?
I was just going to say potato chips,
Yeah.
sliced up cheddar cheese. Yeah.
Yeah, just snacks. Beer and snacks is the greatest thing.
All right. That's what I'll do this afternoon.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. I really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Mike.
Best of luck, and
our
continue
pleasure.
to make an impact in the world with your beer.
That's
and your
what we
brewery.
do.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thanks,
coming. Good
Mike.
luck. Yep. Thank you.
All right.